of people were killed. That's a real difference from Crimea. There was no ethnic violence. The country wasn't falling apart. Another very important difference is that the process of Kosovo reaching independence and recognition was monitored and governed by the UN Security Council. There's a UN Security Council resolution, number 1244, that governed that entire process. Russia was a participant in this UN Security Council process and voted for the UN Security Council resolution. There is no such UN Security Council resolution governing a transition of government in Crimea. It's a completely different case.
Уже сейчас есть, в общем-то, есть некая разница в трактовке событий между Европейским Союзом и Соединенными Штатами Америки. По крайней мере, санкции, которые предприняли обе стороны, назовем так, они все-таки отличаются.
No, I would say that there aren't significant differences between the United States and the European Union. We in the United States have outlined our first 3 stages of sanctions, and we've talked about a 4th stage, a very, very serious stage of sanctions on Russia. And the European Union has now rolled out 3 stages of sanctions. Now, the point of the sanctions is that because of these violations of international law and because of these violations of international norms, we in the United States and the European Union, we believe Russia needs to pay a price for these violations. Also, we hope very much to bring Russia to the negotiating table where we can work on a diplomatic solution to the differences between Russia and Ukraine. So in terms of the sanctions, we in the European Union see it very, very similarly. We certainly see the situation in the same way, and we're hoping for the same objectives, which would be to make sure that Russia understands that there's a very serious cost to this operation, and we hope to bring the Russians and the Ukrainians and others back to a negotiating table to resolve their differences.
Вы говорили о санкциях все-таки. Похоже, что все-таки перед Россией сейчас опускается новый железный занавес. И санкции пока, да, вы хотите вернуть за стол переговоров, пока санкции, по-моему, минимальные, это политические санкции и немножко экономические. Но все-таки чего же вы ждете от Путина? Такое впечатление, что вы даете ему все еще возможность сохранить лицо. Это так? То есть на каких условиях вы готовы договориться? Вот на каких условиях вот эти стороны должны сесть за стол переговоров?
Right. You can talk about saving face as a solution, or you can talk about a negotiated solution where countries' interests are discussed and satisfied. So we are trying, as you say, to do a number of things. The United States, in very close cooperation with our European allies and friends. The first is the introduction of these sanctions. They have gotten, as you say, they were political. There were sanctions on travel and visas. Then sanctions on individuals, Russian individuals and some Ukrainian individuals that were involved in this operation. And then another stage of more individuals whose assets in the United States were frozen, bank accounts frozen, travel restricted, and so on. Same has happened in the European Union, again with individuals and more broadly. We, the United States, are prepared, the President announced last Thursday, for another stage of very, very serious sanctions on whole sectors of the Russian economy that would have a very serious effect on the Russian economy. And even beyond the Russian economy, probably, they would be so serious. So we're thinking about that as a means to help the Russian government understand that they will suffer some costs from this. At the same time, we are looking for a diplomatic way out. We, the United States, have invited the Russians to discuss this many, many times. We invited them to come to Vienna for talks a couple of weeks ago, to Paris for talks a couple of weeks ago, and today, John Kerry, our Secretary of State, will be sitting down with Sergei Lavrov to again try to demonstrate that there is a possibility for a diplomatic solution.
Если эта деэскалация не удастся, если дипломатический путь все-таки будет закрыт, президент Обама заявил, что военное вмешательство в ситуацию исключено. Но есть такая поговорка: никогда не говори никогда. Может быть, так сказать, когда-нибудь это все-таки произойдет.
No one wants a military solution to this conflict and this set of disagreements. we are all looking for, in the first instance, a diplomatic and an economic solution. And the diplomatic solution is what we're talking about, trying to get countries to agree on their interests. The economic solution is the sanctions that will help the Russians understand that there's a cost. And then there's another element of the economic solution. We and the European Union, the International Monetary Fund, and other organizations are trying to support the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian government. This is a very difficult time for them, and they need the financial and economic support. So as we look for a diplomatic solution and strengthen the Ukrainian government, this is what creates a good, peaceful, and mutually acceptable future. We're trying to create a diplomatic and an economic solution. A much more difficult and a more terrible future would involve a military conflict on this. No one wants a military conflict.
Хорошо, но вот эти санкции, вы говорите об экономическом решении проблемы, но экономическое решение проблемы, насколько я понимаю, включает санкции против России. И вот эти санкции – это обоюдоострое оружие. Ну, это коснется и нашей страны, Латвии. Естественно, мы граничим с Россией, у нас транзит. Вы готовы, вот Соединенные Штаты, готовы компенсировать нам наши потери?
The United States, as I said, is working very closely with all of our European allies and friends. We're talking to countries bilaterally about these sanctions. As you know, Vice President Biden was in Vilnius on Wednesday and had two very nice meetings with President Brzezinski about all of these issues. He also saw, Vice President Biden saw the Lithuanian president and the Estonian president and the Polish president and prime minister. So we're talking about these sanctions, again, to help Russia understand that there are costs. These sanctions will be shared. That is to say, we have our sanctions, European countries have their sanctions, and on individuals, on bank accounts, on travel, and then if we move to another set of sanctions on whole sectors, of course, these will have an effect on our side too, because we will be giving up something in order to create these costs. There will be a price for us to impose these costs on Russia. But this is what we're discussing with our friends and allies. We do have to be united together, and we do have to share these costs.
Вице-президент Джо Байден, он сказал в Вильнюсе одну интересную вещь, ну, по крайней мере, политологи так ее трактуют, что Соединенные Штаты Америки окажут помощь балтийским странам, в частности Латвии, даже в том случае, ну, если произойдет какой-то военный конфликт, вмешательство, даже в том случае, если НАТО опоздает. То есть помощь Соединенные Штаты окажут в одностороннем порядке. Это так?
Yeah, Vice President Biden made a number of important points that we are all reinforcing. The first and most important point is that we are all NATO members. The United States, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, many of our other European friends. We're NATO members. The most important commitment in NATO comes in Article 5, Paragraph 5 of the NATO Treaty. And Article 5 says an attack by anybody on one country in NATO is considered an attack on every country in NATO. So Vice President Biden came to say, and Vice President Biden had talked to President Brzezinski a couple of times. President Obama had also telephoned the president, and they had this discussion to ensure that people understand that our commitment to that Article 5 defense is 100% ironclad. It's absolutely steadfast. There is no question that we and other NATO allies will come to the defense of a NATO ally in a time of need. That Article 5 commitment is 100% solid. Now, we hope that there's no such problem in Latvia or elsewhere. So one of the things, many of the things that we're trying to do now, Vice President Biden talked about, we will be engaging in very robust exercises in Latvia, both bilaterally and as NATO in Latvia. More training probably in Latvia by the United States and by other members of NATO. Exchanges of military officers and soldiers in both directions, and a stepping up of all of the activities that we do bilaterally and with NATO in Latvia.
Есть еще одна проблема. Проблема, собственно, касающаяся государственной безопасности и стабильности, собственно, нашей страны. Эта проблема связана с тем, что вот в связи с событиями на Украине выросло такое, так называемое, межнациональное противостояние. Но, в частности, на Украине это противостояние между Востоком и Западом Украины. В Латвии тоже есть проблемы, есть неграждане. Треть жителей Латвии, вот она одобрила, был опрос, она одобрила действия Путина в Крыму. Ну, и мы периодически слышим, что вот некоторые наши правящие политики говорят, что вот обзывают этих людей пятой колонной, особенно вот когда эти люди с чем-то не согласны. Ну, что в Латвии нужно сделать для безопасности латвийского государства? То есть наши авторитеты, наши власти пытаются ассимилировать русских, или все-таки надо пытаться создать какую-то единую Латвию на основе такого добровольного принципа, на основе взаимного уважения. Вот как по-вашему?
Well, I would say a number of things. First, I would say no country has the right to intervene from the outside. No country has the right to manipulate the domestic politics of another country or to create unrest in another country. When Russia made the incursion into Crimea, that was, from our point of view, illegal, a violation of Ukraine's territorial integrity and its sovereignty. No country has the right to do that. But that's not what you asked. You asked about the internal situation. We in the United States value very highly, you and I have talked about this, in the United States we value very highly diversity, openness, consultation, and a way of life that accepts all different kinds of ethnic groups, religious backgrounds, historical and geographic origins, and so on. In the United States, we strongly believe that diversity is one of our great strengths. Instead of being a set of people who only think one way, in the United States there are hundreds of languages and hundreds of cultures, and we feel that that very, very much enriches our society and strengthens the fabric of our society. So we're strong proponents of diversity and openness and participation. Here in Latvia, I understand the question that you're asking. When I travel around Latvia, I talk to as many people as I can, and I understand clearly that there are linguistic differences, but one thing that I see very strongly is that there is a very powerful affection for Latvia. There's a strong affection, loyalty, patriotism for Latvia, and a pride in what Latvia has been able to achieve. That, I think, unites all the residents of Latvia. And that powerful feeling of wanting to move together into the future based on a diverse population where there are different languages, but not just Russian and Latvian, there's also Polish and Belarusian and Ukrainian and others. That real richness of diversity is a very, very important strength of Latvia, in my view. We didn't talk about it today, but we have talked about it before, the economic opportunity that's presented by Latvia in the region in terms of being a center for regional economic activity. Latvians speak so many languages and understand so many cultures that Latvia is a great place to do that business from. You can understand other cultures and work in their business environment. I think that's a very strong asset and an important strength, and I talk about that to Americans who want to do business here. So I think moving together, all of us, discussing these issues, talking about what our needs might be, and being open to different views is extremely important.
Извините, что прерываюсь, но, к сожалению, некоторые у нас считают, что, в принципе, такая проблема может быть решена другим способом, но просто ограничив свободу слова. Вот на Украине отключили российские телеканалы, в Крыму отключили украинские каналы, но в Литве приостановили трансляцию российского НТВ канала. У нас хотят запретить трансляцию одного из каналов, естественно, вещающих на русском языке. Это, по-вашему, нормально? Это, в принципе, нормально для демократического общества? Не вызовет ли это все-таки такой, наоборот, обратный эффект?
You know that one of the strongest principles of the United States is the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. We hold this very, very dear, and it's very, very important to us, freedom of speech and freedom of the press. We are not in favor of closing down TV channels. We are not in favor of restricting freedom of the press and freedom of speech. We think it's very important that people be allowed to express whatever they think. In the United States, you know, we don't even have laws against hate speech and other such things. We allow people to say whatever they would like to say on television, on the radio, in public, and so on. We are not proponents of closing down media organs. We do think that, again, consistent with our view of freedom of the press and freedom of speech, that if someone doesn't like what somebody else is saying, they should present an alternative argument. They should try to convince people this is a democracy. There is a free market of ideas. People are smart. I think Latvians and the people who live in, all people